Welcome to Content Chaos with George and Call, a weekly podcast diving straight into meaningful conversations about navigating modern life. Using their weekly review framework, they explore personal growth, professional insights, and cultural observations. No fluff, just authentic dialogue that transforms chaos into clarity.
We're back.
We are back. Hello.
I read today that the Monday after the Super Bowl is the day that historically the most people call in sick. But we're still here. We're showing up,
We are.
doing the pod.
We were well behaved.
Yes. Very mild-mannered. All right, so let's kick it off with what went well.
So for me, what went well, I think, had a few real world experiences. So we talk a lot about, getting off the phones and getting off the devices, and we take our own medicine as much as we can. And we had a lovely but freezing night out in the city with friends, saw a show that called All Out. It was, I'd say, good but not great, but it was just great to be out and have dinner and all of that. Then we saw some old friends for the first half and the halftime show of Super Bowl 60. Old friends I've known from my time living in Boston, and so it was nice to watch the Patriots, even though they lost, with, folks in this area who I'm aligned with in that way and we love. And then tennis felt good for me this week out in the real world also. And so it was just nice to, be out with friends, a couple of different groups of friends, and be out with the community and being healthy. So that was, it was a good week in that way.
And I would even add on to that, this will not count as my thing, having dinner with Nate at Rutgers on Friday night. That was fun too.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Because, just mixing it up instead of just always sticking to our immediate environs to have dinner, meeting him in his environment. And it's just fun to see him experiencing college and enjoying himself.
Yeah.
And also Hayden being in Ireland this weekend. That was also fun to kind of experience from afar.
Yeah. She's definitely living her best life. That's for sure. I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
And happy for her.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
what about you?
So what went well? So again, in Content Chaos, we can talk about everything. It could be about something from our lives. It could be from the world. And this is from the world of tech and advertising. I am citing the Claude commercial that aired in the Super Bowl last night that was basically mocking advertising-based AI and kind of putting a line in the sand of what is acceptable and what isn't. And this is kind of goes to the heart of Anthropic's kind of mission. And I thought the commercial was really, really well done. I likened it to Kendrick Lamar dissing Drake in the Super Bowl. This was kind of the nerd tech version of Claude dissing Sam Altman and OpenAI in the Super Bowl. And maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but the ad itself was really well done. The agencies who did it and all the people who worked on it, major shout out to them. It was just clever, well executed. And I tend to concur with certain thought leaders who think that OpenAI is in a world of pain, has a world of pain coming their way. I do think Sam's throwing everything he can at the wall right now. It's like the spaghetti at the wall situation, any way to get the money. And that is not the way to do responsible work, effective work, intelligent work. It is, the word he used with his own internal team was code red. He chafed at the ad, mocking him, and said that it was dishonest, which is hilarious because this is the guy who said we will not, have advertising on OpenAI, and they have it like 4 months later. So dishonesty is the only thing I expect from him and that company. And, which is not to say that Claude and Anthropic is perfect. Nobody's perfect. But for responsible adults in the room positioning, I think Anthropic nailed it. And they're going for the B2B market and trust and safety. When you have financial services companies and anyone who has legal and regulatory stuff, you need it to be locked down. It can't be so waffling and crazy. And advertisers, high quality advertisers, the ones with the most money, they don't want to be in unstable environments. They want a clean, well lit space. And Sam is not doing that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I just, the ad was the student and the professor, right? That's what I saw today. Is that
there were a couple of iterations of it. The one that I liked the most was a student talking to a woman about how he could have a better relationship with his mother.
Okay.
And the mother started getting like really creepy and like sexual and weird. And yeah, it was brilliant.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that one yet, but the one I saw was also brilliant. Someone looking for advice, and then the professor starts. You would probably really enjoy this with a new bracelet from. It's just like that's not what she's there for. That's not the,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the whole thing. Like we're here to get direction, and yeah, it was really well done. We can link to
Yep.
a couple in the notes for anybody who missed it.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Good
Okay,
choices.
so that's what went well. So then moving on to what could have been better.
Well, this does touch on technology. It was a real world experience, and it's also personal. So what could have been better, you and I took a trip to the DMV this week. Had you blocked it out?
I had.
So
Yeah.
So we went to go get the real ID, which I don't really understand why we all need real IDs.
Me neither.
I mean, I know because they're required at the airport, but it just...
But just use our passports.
Yeah.
Like, what can't we?
Yeah, we can. So, but these things are not easy to get. Like when I was originally trying to get an appointment, I couldn't get an appointment. Go online to the New Jersey site for real ID appointments. There were none available. And then I would go to the airport and they would tell me, you're going to need a real ID. And it's like, but I can't get one. Finally got an appointment. We waited months. It was like getting tickets to a concert or something. We waited over 2 months to get to our appointment. We get the list of everything that's needed. We go there, and this is where it all breaks down. First, it breaks down when, Colleen, you got caught in the married name, maiden name, patriarchal...
Damn you, patriarchy. Patriarchy.
That whole thing. And it was like, oh, well, you need to come back. She needs to come back with her birth certificate and marriage license. And it was like nowhere on there, doesn't say anything about that, has a million documents listed and circumstances, not that one. That would be a pretty...
It would have been so
one.
Easy. I have all that stuff.
Of course.
But anyway.
Of course. So then, Colleen, you go wait in the car. I'm even had to go online and get a like whatever 6 points I had weren't the right 6 points. I had to go get another point, get it. I had to email them right there, but I'm going to get my ID. I'm given a number. I'm told to wait. You go wait in the car. I don't know, over 30 minutes. I don't know how many minutes exactly. Finally, my number is called. I walk up to the counter. The system that's linking the passports to their database goes down. They can't scan my passport. I can't get the real ID. So after all that, we walked out of there with passes to go back anytime in 14 days to skip the line.
We have to do this.
Yeah. So that could have been a lot better. And it was not an enjoyable real world experience, but it was a real world experience, and not surprising anyone that the people were fine. The people were, they weren't rude. It wasn't about the people at the DMV. It was just the process, and the whole thing was just bad. So yeah, that could have been better.
I'm blaming Christy Nome, even though the real ID thing started before her, but whatever.
Yeah. And what about your side?
So I am, with all the chaos that is happening, this is our Content Chaos podcast, I am constantly getting triggered by stuff in the news. And, I've truly been struggling with finding that balance of what is constructive and productive and what is just a waste of my energy. And haven't figured out the balance yet. At the same time, I know for some of my friends and people in my life, they have completely disengaged. And to that, I say I understand. At the same time, I want to be able to tell people what's going on if they have completely disconnected. And so the two things that were just so awful this week was, number one was Trump's racist tweet about the Obamas,
Oh, yeah.
which is beyond the pale. Number one, it's not surprising at all. He hates Black people. He has been openly racist all along. And people who don't acknowledge that, maybe you want to reconsider. Maybe you might see this evidence. But most people are like, it's always been right out there in the open. So why are we suddenly getting so, enraged? So put that to the side. And then the other thing is just the Epstein files and the extensive information that's coming out about various individuals, including Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who was like next door neighbors to Jeffrey Epstein, and like they were hanging out and way cozier than he ever let anyone believe or know, and just the various folks. I'm going to do a kind of deeper dive conversation. One of them is Deepak Chopra, who is a spiritual leader, and it's almost even a bigger betrayal. It's like the Catholic Church, molesting children and covering up priests who do that. This is when you are a self-proclaimed spiritual leader or teacher of anyone who's in a vulnerable, a power imbalance, it is so wretched. It's horrible. And it bothers me a lot. I want all the information to come out. We've only seen, half the files, and they're so heavily redacted. We don't even know the full extent of the depravity. I am not giving up on this. Like, in other words, I am not sweeping it under the rug, and I am not going to stop talking about it. And, I have like one of my mentors who's like almost 80 years old. She's like, I just can't anymore with this. I said, you know what? Fine, don't. You don't need to. Like, you've lived it your whole life. You fought all this shit. Like, I don't accept a world where we treat women and children like this. And if you're a powerful man, you can just do whatever the fuck you want. I reject that.
Yeah.
And it shocks my conscience that people would accept it and say, well, that's the way of the world. That's the way of your world, not my world. I could go on and on about, but it was
all really well said.
It really is eating away at me. And I know it's just the beginning of finding out about this stuff.
Yeah. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Unfortunate that so many people would have you think that you're alone or in a small group, but I think you're in the majority. I think there are a lot of signals that, I heard someone put it really well, that they're behaving like they didn't know that swing voters were what made them successful, and they're also what's going to make them unsuccessful come the midterms. And it's like, I think most people are disgusted by this, but it's, when we're not aligned with the folks that have any power to really do anything about it. Yeah, it's terrible. And you're doing the right thing by not giving up on it.
And just to clarify with the swing voters, like the Epstein files are about all kinds of people, men and women, obviously mostly men, but some are Republicans, some are Democrats, some are neither.
Oh, right.
And it's like Noam Chomsky is like this leading intellectual on the left, and he and his wife totally were like buddy. Like these people who are like freedom fighters or, theoretically liberal, but they are totally exploitative. It's like, it just enrages me.
Yeah. I don't mean to imply that it's one side's more guilty than the other with the actual problem. There's the last administration could have, done anything about this. And this administration is forced to do it, and it's getting redacted. And it turns out that, the person leading that administration is listed thousands of times in those documents. So I'm just aligning that, not the guilt or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to, what did you learn this week?
Well, I found a really interesting article, and so you're probably aware that in the last, I guess at this point, couple of weeks, Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow, and we've got as per Phil, 6 more weeks of winter, right? That little bastard. But the thing that I learned, we all learn that at the same time. That happens every year. But what I learned is there are many other animal predictors of the weather.
Oh.
And unfortunately, most of them also predicted more winter, but there's Bee Cave Bob, who is an armadillo in Texas, also predicted 6 more weeks of winter. Big Al, the alligator, 90-fold, predicted early spring. Go Alligators. Birmingham Jill, an opossum in Alabama, predicted a long winter. Sand Mountain Sam, opossum in Alabama, predicted an early spring. I don't know the difference between an opossum and a possum, but I don't know if there's a conflict in the animal world there. Gidget, a Havanese dog in New York, predicted a long winter. Flatiron.
I'm sorry, but I'm hearing a domestic bias here. What about our international animals?
I didn't.
Are these all
the article
American
didn't
animals?
mention. I don't know. I didn't do research to globally look at it. There must be some predictors there. But the marmot in Colorado, Flatiron Freddy, was just listed as off unpredictable. So not a good vote for Marmot Freddy. And I learned in another channel that there is a Staten Island Chuck or something like that. And I think that's a groundhog. So I was looking at non-groundhogs, also predicted more winter. So yeah, anyhow, that was my learning. It's light, I know, but it was something.
Yeah, interesting.
What about you? I'm sure you learned something far more useful and valuable than.
No, so this is actually fascinating to me because I was in high school when this happened, but basically I learned that the Super Bowl halftime show wasn't always this giant spectacle. I mean, we've seen it kind of becoming very ostentatious over the years, but what really started it used to be very mid, as the kids would say, just lame parades, kind of
classic halftime stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in 1993, the Wayans brothers, Keenan Ivory Wayans, and the producer Eric Gold, who did In Living Color, which show I absolutely loved. And, that was Fox News. It was such a rebellious entity at the time. It was oh my God, there's a fourth network. And that show was it was such a trailblazer in the talent it launched and all of that. But anyway, Damon said, hey, we have this opportunity. It was Keenan. Keenan said, let's do a halftime show on In Living Color and, we'll make it, gives people something to watch because this thing is lame and nobody really wants to watch it. And they put a little time code on the bottom letting people know, okay, the show starts again. And so many people came and watched In Living Color and tuned off from the main game that, the next year they had Michael Jackson perform at the Super Bowl. And every year thereafter became an escalating spectacle.
Yeah.
It was 20 million people. It was a sizable chunk of audience. And it was oh my God, we're missing out on a huge opportunity. And I had no idea that started with In Living Color. No idea.
I had forgotten that happened, but I remember when it was the year that In Living Color did that. And it was it was definitely a switch, whatever the Super Bowl party was, wherever, everybody went there because the halftime is long at the Super Bowl and lame. It used to be lame.
Yes.
Sometimes it's still lame, but it's always long. And
yes.
That's really cool that's how it came about.
Yeah. So, and I liked Bad Bunny. I thought that was a very cool show. As you pointed out, literally he's catapulting into America's living rooms.
Yeah. Crashing in.
Unfamiliar to a lot of people, but also, hey, this is your opportunity to be exposed to something new and to learn something new. And, it was cool. Yeah. It was different. It was different in the camera angles and the storytelling. I felt this was more storytelling than last year with Kendrick, it was major storytelling too. In that you have little vignettes within. It wasn't just the music, song, and dance. There were little embedded stories, with Serena Williams popping up. We saw all of these stories. You had mentioned to me the little boy.
He handed the Grammy to Liam, the little boy that ICE took, and then he's now back at home and everything. Yeah, that was. I didn't know who that was when I saw it, but I saw today that that's who it was.
It was incredible.
Yeah, I haven't had time to look at any stories about the whole thing, but you could see the imagery, and I'm looking forward to learning about what some of that was, because I don't speak the language, so I was at a loss there. But there was, I had the thought while we were watching it, the camera angle with Kendrick Lamar last year, like on the field while he was walking and they're moving back. Bad Bunny made use of that device as well. And I had that thought like, oh, this is kind of a thing now.
Yeah.
And it's for the viewers at home, it's a much tighter shot, and there's more, you feel like you're there a little more. So that was, there were similarities in more ways than one with his performance.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. And then also the people freaking out because, God forbid, they have to experience something that they're not used to. So they got to watch the Turning Point version.
And they didn't understand the messages in Kendrick's halftime any more than they did the messages in last night's. But yeah.
And I didn't understand. Look, I speak Spanish. I didn't understand the words, but you don't have to understand the actual words to be with it. It's so much of language is unspoken, and so much is just the feeling. And experience something different, people. Nothing bad's going to happen, you freaks.
All right. We did it.
All right. Well, thank you. Yes.
All right.
We did.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back next week.
All right. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Adios.